Good morning. I wonder who up. There's 3 comments already. Good morning, Carrie. Always the first one. AC, good morning. And my man Lucas, good morning. How you guys doing? All right, a little late today. A little ragged. Dealing with a leaky roof in the rain here in California. So you never know about your roof in California until it rains, and which doesn't happen much. So, anyways, what I wanted to talk about this morning, there was a Pew Research study about the religious landscape in America that just dropped, and it's been kind of all over it's kind of been all over the internet, and so I wanted to just make you guys aware of it. And basically, what it says is the decline of Christianity in the U.S. has slowed and may have leveled off. So this is findings from 2023 to 24 religious landscape study. It gives this little chart. I don't know if you guys can see it. Let's see if I can make it bigger here. So let's see how this is coming through here. Yeah. Okay. So beginning around 2009, let me make it, see if I can make it smaller without messing it up here. So around 2007, I guess, things are about 78% of people said they were Christians. And then it starts pretty decline. And I don't know what came before it. That would be nice to know what came before 2007, but I don't think I don't think Pew Research, this is from Pew Research, so I think they first started doing this study in 2007, but I would be interested to know what happened before this. I'm sure it was a decline also, but, I guess here they have end of telephone-based surveys, and the start of surveys conducted mainly online or on paper. So, but you can see that probably 2022 was the low point here, and then it kind of started to go up. So, and I just want to talk about kind of what that means, and what we can take away from it. And Sabrina, I'm catching a live. My workout's changed. Sorry. Okay. Sabrina, thanks for checking in. I heard our numbers were climbing. Could be. Oh, I'm interested to know where you heard that from, Carrie. If you could maybe chime in with that. So I know I was listening to Al Mohler, who's someone I listen to a lot from Southern Baptist Convention. And in this survey by Pew Research, they talk about a number of different things. So it was really, when you talk about the decline of Christianity, it has to be offset by something. There have been some immigration gains for other religions, like obviously Islam and some of the Asian or Eastern religions, Hinduism, based on immigration. But then there's been a lot of huge growth or major bump in Catholic faith from people from South America, South and Central America, coming in also. And that would be included in the Christian bubble or Christian world, their sphere. So it says, after years of decline, the share of Christians in the U.S. has stabilized. And the story, again, since 2007 has been the rise of what's called the nones, N-O-N-E-S, people who have no affiliation at all. And those have plateaued also. So I guess the Christian decline has plateaued, and the rise of the nones has also plateaued. And again, this is as of 2023 and 2024. I'll be interested when the next one comes out, probably 25 and 26. Maybe it'll come out in early 27. But I'd be interested to know, um, since this last year, so many things changed in America. Last 2 years, for sure, but for sure last year, um, just the social permission that was given by the whole election process, because the election process really showed us how crazy the secular left is, and that's one of the things that this study goes in to talk about is the political affiliation of people who are Christian or religious versus people who are the nuns. Um, and it's no surprise to any of us who are Christian conservatives or, um, oh, Gary. So I know, yeah, I did see that Charlie, not really sure one of my podcasts, maybe even Charlie Kirk is the one that told you they were going up. I know Charlie Kirk did. I didn't get a chance to hear what he had said about this, so maybe I'll check that out. But excuse me. Um, the nuns and the religiously unaffiliated people tend to skew liberal Democrat, and people with faith tend to skew conservative Republican. It's just there's a correlation there, and so this last election year was so unique because um, ever since Biden's performance in that debate, the left and the Democrats could no longer hide their true nature, the true nature of what they were doing, the true nature of the party, that they had put this man up for a candidate that was so obviously not qualified. And then that began to show us all the other crazy stuff. People all of a sudden had social permission to open their eyes and look at what else was happening. And then all the other stuff that happened, the crazy stuff that happened, Trump getting shot and the other attempt. And, you know, Kamala Harris's obvious ineptitude and non-qualification for what, they put forth. It's 2024 might be the worst year for Democrats ever. Other than that, when I was a kid, 1968 was a pretty bad year too, when their craziness was on full display for the rest of the country to see. And like I said, I think with all of that, all of a sudden it has given people social permission to say, hey, wait a minute, maybe that the secular kind of liberal faith is not what I always thought it was. Maybe these crazy people on the right who've been giving these slippery slope arguments ever since Elvis, those they've come true. So like I said, I'd be interested in a couple of years to see if there maybe isn't a bump between now and then, maybe even a bump up for religious or even Christian affiliation. Because let's face it, I mean, Christianity is associated with conservatism. There is liberal Christianity, progressive Christianity for sure, but it's in such decline. It has been in decline for years, and that's one of the reasons I think the numbers have gone down. If you notice, in 2007, that was the end of the Bush 2 administration and the beginning of Obama's campaign for the presidency, and that was been a huge influence on people. If they would have been able to see back then, if there was social permission given back then to see how crazy things were, I think people would have seen it. Because as I often said, since in all my life, the liberal left, the progressive left has been chipping away at the foundations of our country, the Constitution and rule of law and all these things, Judeo-Christian, the Judeo-Christian identity of the country. But when Obama came along, they started taking sledgehammers to the foundation and to the bearing walls. And he even said it himself, he's going to fundamentally change the United States of America. And he did. He went a long way to fundamentally changing the United States. And if it wasn't for Trump's first term, kind of between Obama's term and the Biden term, most people refer to Biden's term as Obama's third term, because Biden was so checked out, was so mentally incapable of doing anything. And everyone pretty much acknowledges Obama was behind the scenes. He even said so. He was behind the scenes, kind of pulling levers. So, so Lucas, I feel a Christian revival is in our close future. I hope so. But there's one other aspect of this. Well, there's that aspect of the political, just to finish up my thoughts on this. So the political, it's now much more in most of the country. Here in California, it's not. I just had this discussion with my wife last night. There's so much ugliness here in California now, and anger at what's going on in Washington, Trump and Elon Musk. But we're in a very liberal, we're coastal California. We are in a very, very blue part of the country. And so we have a skewed view of most of the country, but I think in most of the country, you now have this permission to be more receptive to conservative ideas. And I'm waiting to see if the correlation goes both ways. There's always been this correlation. If you're more religious and more Christian, say, because it really was talking about is Christianity in the U.S. I mean, the numbers say when you talk about religion in the U.S., despite what the media or anyone else would tell you, you're basically talking about Christianity. And so if the more Christian you are, the more conservative you are. I wonder if the coalition will go the other way. If people see, hey, wait a minute, the progressive left is ruining this country, I'm going to start listening to the conservative right a little more. And I'm wondering if that will make the appeal of Christianity better for them. And I don't know if I will ever be able to find that out, but that would be an interesting part of that. But let's see. When we woke up, forgot to. I hope so. I hope that's the case. And, God can do that. I know it's been something that I followed in the past 10 years when, I've had my old podcast network and I've been following things online and following what you call influencers. I've seen a lot of people like Tim Pool and guy used to be on Stefan Molyneux, Dave Rubin, all these guys, Joe Rogan, even the guys that started off very atheist or progressive. And the more they talked to conservative Christian people, the more their eyes have been opened, because a lot of guys like that would tell you that they could never have two-way conversations with progressives. Progressives would not want to discuss anything. They would just shout them down or shut them up, or they wouldn't even come on their show. But when conservative Christian people came on their show, they were able to have these really two-way, enlightening, respectful conversations. And from what I've seen, at least in my little sphere, the Christian presence online, the conservative Christian presence online has been very redemptive. And now these people are much more open. Russell Brand is probably the one that sticks out the most. We talk about a guy who was all the way liberal and hostile to faith. I don't know if you guys know who Russell Brand is, the British actor. And he has since come to faith. And so there is this kind of influence in a certain part that I've seen where political conservatism and Christian conservatism has shown light on at least a part of the internet. So maybe hopefully that'll go the other way. The thing that worries me most, the Russell Brand, I mean, he came to Christ big time. Now he's quite the zealous advocate for it. I think he needs to grow a little bit from what I've seen of him. He needs to grow in his faith a little bit, but who don't we all, right? But the one aspect that did come up on this, and Al Mohler talked about this a lot, is the generational passing the generational uh, our faith um, to the next generation, to our children, and that and Al Mohler said, "Can Christians retain their own young people? Christians face a big challenge in a highly secular society that is capturing more and more young people, and this is the thing that." Um, that worries me. First of all, is there going to be, and I talked about this. Oh, AC, did Candace Owens? Yeah, Candace Owens, I think. I didn't know her faith beforehand, but I know that she talks a lot about it. And I haven't really listened to a lot of Candace Owens, but, um, but I do know that she has expressed some kind of strong things too that have offended some people. She went further than I would on a couple of things that I seem to remember. But I talked about this a couple of weeks ago about how we going to have a next generation, because young people now are not getting married and having children at near the rate we need to keep our society going. Um, and in this, um, I think in the numbers, Al Mohler was talking about this. Conservative people are having more children. Um, but that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to pass our values on to them. I know, and again, maybe I'm skewed here in California, but I know that even in our kids, my experience with our kids, one of them is a faithful Christian, one of them is not, and we definitely raised them to be in the faith, and we tried to model it for them as much as possible. We brought them to church, a very dynamic church that was very youth focused, and they got a good Christian education. So, but then again, a lot of people at this church, we had a lot of friends, and a lot of people at the church were bringing their kids, but I'm not sure how much they were passing along their faith. Um, the temptation is, when you're at churches like that, or if you're go to a church where there is a lot of young people, the temptation for parents is just to leave that to the church, and the um, there's a temptation to not stress yourself at home. There's a temptation to just let the church take care of that. Let the dynamic youth group, the fun youth group, whatever. Well, the problem is the kids get more from their parents than they acknowledge, and parents, you have more of an effect on your kids than you acknowledge. I've said this before too. I know so many parents that just did not really seriously pass their faith on to their kids. The example I always use is, I know so many fathers that absolutely drilled their kids on Star Wars canon, you know, or something pop culture like that. Um, and they really got into it with their sons, especially. But those fathers never, I don't know if they ever once sat down and read the Bibles with their kids, or had conversations with their kid about why they believe what they believe. This is why we're a Christian family. And this is what God has done in my life. And this is what I want, this is what we believe. This is important. This is more, I don't know if any of those fathers sat their sons down and said, this Christianity, your faith, is more important than Star Wars. But so that'll remain to be seen. Generationally, as we go ahead, the progressive left will not pass their faith onto their children, because they're not having children. And in progressive churches, children, especially teenagers or young people, are non-existent. And actually, the photo that came with this Pew Research, I think the Washington Post had a photo. Let me see if I can share that with you, and see if you guys can spot what I'm talking about here. Let me see if I can do a little. So here's this picture here, and I think this is under the headline of the Washington Post. After years of decline, the share of Christian in the U.S. is stabilized. But if you look at this picture, what do you see? You see mostly women and older. If there's men in there, they're older. And this looks like some kind of Eastern part of the country. There's pews. They're singing from a hymnal. And this could be a representation of the progressive Christianity, I think. This screams to me progressive Christianity. It's mostly female and it skews older. And there's not a lot of young people around. So, and whenever we travel, I've said this before also, we see so many, especially even on the East Coast, but the Midwest also. But if you go to any of these big cities, you all see these beautiful cathedral-like churches that are mostly empty. They're a lot of times used for a community center. But if they are still a church, there are multicolored flags hanging and radical left political banners all over it. We were in Chicago last summer, and our hotel was right next to a Presbyterian church. And we went in to tour the church. And as we were walking, one of the ladies was greeting another lady in the church by saying namaste, which is Eastern yoga, right? Eastern mysticism. In this Presbyterian church, they greeted each other with namaste. So they're right then there, they're bringing a false religion into this church. So that's the state of progressive Christianity. And there's no one to pass that on to. It's mostly older people, and there's not a lot of children around to pass these values on to. And there really are no values. The fact that they will just take any religion in like that, or any faith, the fact that they could cross the line and use a greeting from another faith in a Christian church means that they have nothing to pass on anyways. So anyways, was there no pic? Was it blank? Oh, let me try again. Share screen. Let me see if I can do this again. Because I see it. Is it there now? I have it on my end. But anyways, it's a picture of what looks like a church, a traditional church with pews, and people are singing a hymn, and there's an American flag in the background. But it very strikes me as very much an old Presbyterian or Episcopalian church that is now mostly female and mostly older people. So I don't know if that's coming through now, but I've got it on my screen. Not sure why. So, but Chloe, the Bible is extremely clear about having any other gods. And why, when you have the one true living God? Why would you when you have the one true living God? Yeah, why would you? So, and then another thing that came out in this was that this is what people are self-described as. They're not necessarily using, whoops, sorry. There we go. People are self-describing themselves or self-affiliating. They're stating this. This research wasn't about practices. They're not examining the practices of people, saying, are these people Orthodox or not? Are they actually going to church or not? This is just what people say they are. And I think even they noted even that some people who said that they were not affiliated with any religion at all, that didn't mean that they weren't necessarily practicing a faith. They just don't want to be affiliated with any maybe they think of it as any kind of church or denomination. And I know that within evangelicalism, there's a movement to say you're not Christian anymore. You're a Jesus follower or you're a Christ follower, something like that. I don't want to say I'm Christian because, despite that the Bible says it. So there's that trend too. So I think there's a lot of things going into this. And I'm, like I said, I'm really, I'll be really interested in the next couple of years to see how this shakes out now that the mood of the country has changed, and it has changed so radically. And like I said, so many momentous things happened in 2024 leading into 2025. Things that were like earth shattering. Like, I think that the more I think about it, that debate with Trump and Biden was an earthquake. That was the thing that he was so bad in that thing that the scales fell from their eyes in that sense. And all of a sudden people started looking at things differently. And then when Trump, took that bullet and then raised his fist and said, fight, fight, fight. That was the second major earthquake of last year. As far as visuals that impacted people, right in front of everyone. And that was, like I said, at that point, election was over. The country was changed forever at that point. And we'll see how that shakes out. But one thing I do know, if we want this to continue, if we want to have Christianity, because again, when I talk about religion, you're essentially talking about Christianity. We have to pass it along to the next generation. We have to teach our kids. It's up to us. It's on us, the parents, to pass on our faith to our kids. We can't just leave it to youth groups, because there's a lot of weird stuff going on in youth groups. Even within evangelicalism, there's a lot of people who aren't towing the orthodox line. And the same ideas that influenced the mainline denominations to decline are now embedded in evangelicalism, and it's mostly on the younger side. We have to stop, as Christians, we have to stop trying to be cool and look cool to our younger generations. Dave Murrow of Church for Men talks a lot about this. We have to be serious to our young people. If all we do is try and placate them or entertain them in church, they're going to get the idea that church isn't really that serious. And when they get on to college and start talking about serious ideas, Christianity won't be on their radar. But we also have to stress to our kids that we need to have a next generation. Okay. Especially to our young ladies. Okay. Tell them there's nothing wrong with having children and being a mother. Okay. All our society is telling them, get a career. Don't be tied to a man. Don't be tied to children. You don't need a man. You don't, all this kind of stuff, this feminist ideals that are so rooted in our society. We need to start breaking that mold. And we need to teach our young men too, that the future is not necessarily female and you're not necessary. Okay. Get out from in front of your computer games. Okay. And engage, get married, have a family, work to support your family, and have children. And along with that, bring your faith to them. That's the best evangelical plan we can have. The best is to have our children get married and have children themselves and pass on that faith. Show them how to do it. So, yes, Scripture says, train up your children the way they should go, and when they're old, they will not depart from it. You must be intentional and get hold of the grandbabies if possible. Yeah. Thank you for a good summary there, Chloe. That was perfect. Except the parents show kids the way. Right. So, yeah. Love what Trump said almost at the end of his address, that children were perfect, how God made them. But they are fallen beings and they need to know the gospel. So yes, but they are that valuable. AC. That's exactly right. So I've gone over again, but thanks for listening. And again, if you guys want to check that out, it's Pew Research uh, uh, study, the religious landscape in America. I'll be here tomorrow. I'm not sure how Ben or Michael are but we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks.